This emperor was painted twice. In the first conception, Napoleon lifts a crown towards his own head. He bends backwards, one hand at his sword, making himself the only actor who matters. In the finished painting, that Napoleon is gone. He stands upright and raises a different crown above Josephine. The first pose became the second. The center of the ceremony changed with it. But the revision did not stop at his body. Napoleon's mother appears in a ceremony she did not attend. The Pope raises a hand because Napoleon wanted the blessing visible. David changed the emperor, supplied the absent mother, and fixed the Pope's blessing. What kind of record is that? The whole painting. Jacques-Louis David. The Coronation of Napoleon. A public event, rebuilt for public memory. Today, the painting fills a wall in the Louvre's Salle Daru in Paris. It is so large that standing before it means looking into a room, but the room it rebuilds is somewhere else. France, 1804. 15 years after a revolution overthrew its monarchy, the country is still divided and at war across Europe. Napoleon Bonaparte began as a soldier of the revolution. By 1799, he had become its political leader. 5 years later, the Republic is becoming an empire, and Napoleon is Emperor of the French. Taking power and making it look legitimate are different things. He had to make a new dynasty look ancient. For that, Napoleon reached backwards, towards the authority of the Church, towards the image of Rome, towards Notre-Dame, the cathedral at the center of Paris. Pope Pius VII traveled to Paris for the ceremony, but Napoleon would not allow the Pope to place the crown on his head. On the 2nd of December 1804, the performance began. Inside Notre-Dame, Napoleon already wears the golden laurel with which he crowned himself. Around him are the imperial family, officers of state, foreign ambassadors, clergy, and Pope Pius VII. Josephine kneels below him. Napoleon holds her crown in both hands. The painted moment comes after his own crowning and just before hers. This was no ordinary royal service. The ceremony joined papal anointing to a constitutional oath and to an emperor who placed the crown on his own head. Notre-Dame supplied the ancient weight. Napoleon controlled the gesture. Napoleon commissioned David in September 1804, 3 months before the ceremony. Before the crown was placed, David was already building its public image. David had to give the new dynasty the ceremonial weight of an old one. David first planned the more confrontational instant. Napoleon would crown himself while the Pope watched. The final center moves one beat later and lets authority pass through an offering. David knew what a political image could do. He had painted for the French Revolution, survived its collapse, and become first painter to the emperor. Before the coronation, he had already turned Napoleon crossing the Alps into a controlled storm of cloth, stone, and command. The horse rears, the rider points. The pointing hand organizes the entire picture. In the coronation, David places himself high in the tribune, drawing the spectacle that he is also remaking. The canvas was almost 10 meters wide. Visitors came to see it in progress, as though the workshop were already a public stage. David needed a disused chapel near the Sorbonne simply to contain it. Inside that borrowed church, David arranged architecture, costume, and hundreds of faces into one convincing room. The route begins at the change center. One Napoleon raises a crown towards himself. The finished Napoleon extends one towards Josephine. From that correction, the painting widens. A mother who was absent, a pope whose blessing was requested, a cathedral reorganized like a theater, a crowd prepared for another audience. First, the Napoleon who disappeared. The preparatory drawing is blunt. Napoleon leans back beneath the crown, his elbow cutting into the space around him. One hand performs the crowning, the other closes around his sword. The body is active, tense, and self-contained. The finished figure is straighter. His sword no longer competes with the crown. Both arms now reach towards another person. Josephine completes the action. Her kneeling body rises towards his hands, and the white train leads back through the women behind her. The Louvre's current object record says the canvas first carried the self-crowning posture, which David removed completely and replaced in August 1806. The record says the correction made Napoleon calmer and gave Josephine greater weight. The books do not agree on who drove the exact change. One account gives the decision to David. Another says Napoleon and his advisors insisted on the later moment. The secure fact is the correction itself. The first Napoleon makes power look seized. The second makes power look conferred. A quieter body controls more of the room. The finished center is built from 3 bodies and 1 suspended object. Napoleon stands. Josephine kneels. The Pope sits behind them. The crown hangs between 2 pairs of hands. Napoleon's vertical figure is almost architectural. White satin and crimson velvet turn him into a bright column against the crowded choir. Josephine's line is different. Her body bends while the long train flows left through attendants, sisters, and family. The crown does not rest on either head. David fixes it in the interval between decision and possession. Above it, the cross marks another vertical. Napoleon does not replace the sacred object. He occupies its line. The earlier pose forced the eye back into Napoleon's own body. The revision sends it down to Josephine, across her train and outward into the witnesses. A second diagonal runs from Josephine through Napoleon towards the Pope. The gesture at the center now reaches church, court, and family at once. That is what the calmer pose buys, not less authority, a longer circuit for it. High above the court sits a woman in white, alone at the center of the tribune. She is Letizia Bonaparte, Napoleon's mother. The histories agree on the awkward fact. She refused to attend the coronation. The reason for that refusal is not secure in the checked sources, so it remains outside this story. Her absence is enough. The official event lacked the mother of the new emperor. The official painting supplies her. David does not hide Letizia at an edge. He places her above Napoleon and Josephine, framed by the central arch, a family witness commanding the whole assembly. An imperial family image needs lineage as well as ceremony. The missing mother is therefore not a small correction to attendance. She completes the dynasty on screen. Once she is found, the crowd stops behaving like a neutral guest list. Every presence becomes a choice. Pius VII had travelled to Paris to anoint the new emperor. David also painted him alone, small inside a velvet chair, alert and reserved. In the coronation, the Pope sits behind Napoleon, close enough to legitimize the ceremony, but too far back to control its center. His right hand rises in blessing. Gardner and Kleiner both record that Napoleon requested the gesture. The hand does not prove what Pius physically did at that instant. It proves what the finished image was required to show. Here is the turn. David gathers Pope, prelates, and priests on the right side of the painting. The imperial family and court spread across the left. Church and state face one another across Napoleon's body. The arrangement is theatre. Rank determines position, architecture frames the cast, and each witness receives the action the ceremony needs from them. Letizia supplies ancestry, the Pope supplies blessing, Josephine receives the crown. Napoleon stands between them as the maker of the completed scene. The finished room feels witnessed because David built it from observation. He attended the ceremony, drew during its preparation, and arranged sittings for many of its people. He also changed the room. Perspective studies organized the cathedral for the painting, rather than merely copying one fixed view. The permanent choir, temporary decorations, tribunes, curtains, and altar become one legible stage. Studies isolate faces, robes, and gestures. David observed each person separately, then admitted that likeness to the larger order. Velvet, fur, satin, and gold thread make that order tactile. Documentary texture carries political arrangement. The costume is not decoration around the argument, it is how a new empire borrows the weight of older forms. In the College of Cluny Chapel, David worked with Georges Rouget on figures and with Ignace de Gotti on architecture and perspective. One account describes a model populated with costumed dolls. The vast crowd is not a single glimpse preserved. David made years of selection look seamless. The whole painting again. The abundance is still magnificent, but it no longer looks innocent. At the center, David replaced the first Napoleon with the calmer figure extending Josephine's crown. Above him, his absent mother occupies the room's most deliberate seat. Behind him, the Pope supplies the requested blessing. None of these changes makes the painting useless as evidence. They reveal what kind of evidence it is. David recorded bodies, fabrics, architecture, and rank, then arranged them into a persuasive relation between church, court, and dynasty. The painting convinces because the edits do not interrupt its completeness. The edits create the completeness. In February 1808, the completed canvas entered public view at the Louvre. The ceremony had lasted a day. The painting became an event of its own. Visitors gathered before it, searching the enormous surface for rulers, relatives, ministers, and themselves. The painted witnesses acquired new witnesses. For those viewers, the altered center was not an alteration. It was the coronation as David had finished it. The discarded Napoleon survives in preparatory work. The public Napoleon survives at nearly 10 meters wide. One crowns himself, one crowns Josephine, while mother, pope, church, and court complete the image around him. When an official image outlives its event, which one feels more real, the ceremony people witnessed, or the one the painting taught them to remember?